Hi, sister leaders. You have reached another Monday. Thank God for that. And of course, I am Dr. Karen Hills Pruden. And of course, I bring highly esteemed guests with me. And so on today, we have another sister leader who's going to tell you the problems she helps solve here in this world, her ideal client, the services that she provides, because we know that there is great talent out here in our sisterhood. And so, Felicia Kelly, welcome to the Sister Leaders Podcast.
Hey now. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Karen.
Absolutely. So tell the Sister Leaders community, who are your ideal clients? Talk about your business, the services that you have. Just go ahead and just brag on yourself.
Well, hey now, sister leaders. I am so honored to be here with Dr. Karen. It's so funny when I have these conversations because I never like to use titles. I have spent the last 19 and a half years in sales, training, consulting of some sort. And so over the years, I've had titles from coach, consultant, speaker, author, and I still do all of those things, but I've reached a point in my life that I like to call convergence. And it's where God has brought together everything that I've ever done. I got my start as far as owning my own business in 2016. And on my end, it seemed like kind of an accident. And my husband actually saw me at the dealership where we worked together. And I was a finance manager at the time. And I continued to help people who could not get approved or who could not get favorable terms to look at their credit reports, put a money plan together. And time after time after time, those people kept coming back with improved credit, more money, more savings. And as it continued to work, my husband said, I think you have something here. You've always wanted to own a business. You need to do something with this. And from there, I started helping women in business to pay off debt. And through my coaching, I helped women pay off over $300,000 in debt in less than a year. And from there, one of my clients begged me and begged me and begged me for months to help her with her sales and business. And I said, well, I'm not a sales coach. I don't do that. And at the time she said, well, Fee, you've been in sales for like 15 years, right? And I said, yes. And I coached her for a month and she doubled her sales. And I said, okay, well, maybe I can be a sales coach. And from there, I launched a program, Proverbs and Profit, then Empower to Shift, where I help women not only continue to pay off debt, but to make millions of dollars in sales. And so in 22, I had a bit of what some people would like to call a setback. I lost my granddad and was diagnosed with possible MS, and things just started going a little haywire. And I said, well, God, what do I do now? I've helped all these people. I'm in this space of isolation. What do I do now? And I started to dig through every single program and offer I ever had. And from there, I started helping women to converge and to align their lives and business. And so that led me to this season of my life where I am currently continuing to speak to audiences that have women who sell services. And through my speaking and coaching and consulting, I help them to take control of their time, money, and energy. And what that means is we redefine success on their terms according to how God has purposed them. And through with that, there's a three-phase process that we focus on where we master money management, turn your 10K months into a 10K offer, and use those tools and skills to align your life, business, and marriage. And so my ideal clients are primarily women who typically hold a post degree. What I've learned with women who hold post degrees like MBAs and doctorates, sometimes the institutionalization of education can cause us to be really meek, really timid, and not in the way that God has designed us to be, but in a way that causes us to be fearful and lose confidence. And so those are the women I typically attract. Typically, they're somewhere between the ages of 35 and 50 and are in the space of life where they're saying, okay, God, I've had all these accomplishments and that's real good. And I've made the money and I'm already the outcast in the family. I'm already the bougie one at the table at Thanksgiving. I'm already the one that everybody's looking at sideways, but there's more for me as a woman. There's more for my marriage. There's more than these accomplishments. And I have to understand what that is so that I can walk in the boldness of my voice. And those are the women that I typically attract and have the most success with.
I love that. So you use the word convergence. which
Yeah.
is so powerful because I truly believe, and we believe here in the Sister Leaders community, that we have so many hats that we bring to the table, and no one title can identify all that we bring to the table. And so for those that are entrepreneurs, our clients get the breadth of everything that we have experienced up until that moment. They get all of that, not just whatever one thing that they're seeking, if we have an area expertise or experience in that. And so I love that phrase, that is a perfect word, convergence. And so with our many hats, what have you found are the most prominent competencies that women fail to tap into because they have been super successful in one area, but they can't seem to be truly successful maybe in another particular area? And what is that particular area? I know you said your area is finance. Is it finance? Because I'm in that group of women that you're talking about. I'm in the one with postdoctorate. I'm the one who is the first of many, hold that title, and I have a couple of friends. And so I kind of have an idea, but I want you to tell me what you have seen is that competency that women need a little bit of help with.
Oh, I love that question so much. And here's why, right? Because my foundational skill came from money management and sales, right? So it looks like it's about money. And what I have learned about these women in this space is that they have the money and they know how to succeed. And even when they aren't confident with making money or confident in sales, they're still doing it. They already have the salary or the business revenue, or what have you. But 100% of the time, when women come to me in that space, I don't like to use this word, so I'm going to use the word that they use. They are dropping the ball as wives and moms. And they don't mean to. And it's not because they aren't good wives and good moms. It is because they like to, what I say is passing themselves in the hallway. They have so many responsibilities and obligations that their roles are actually out of order. And I call this the hierarchy of womanhood. And I'm just going to give this to y'all for free. The hierarchy of womanhood is where we step into our lives. We audit our lives and we determine what role we're playing the most. And what I find is that we are a businesswoman 120% of the time, Dr. Karen. And our role as a woman is losing out. Our role as a wife is losing out. Our role as a mother is losing out. And we're trying to spin all these plates. And we just are spinning all these plates. And when we sit down and assess where we're spending our time, where we're spending our money, and where we're spending our energy, it's somewhere business related. 99% of the time. And so the issue is that we haven't found balance. And I know this is a common word, but we truly haven't found a balance in our roles. And so what we do with women who are in that space is we reorganize and reprioritize the roles and show them how to capitalize on their time, money, and energy. So instead of being a CEO, a mom, a wife, then a woman, we reposition ourselves to where we're now the woman first, because nothing can go well if I'm not at the best version of myself. Then as the wife, my relationship with my children, I can't give them the right example if me and my husband aren't on the same page in the same wave. And then once I have that set, then I can show up as the mom that I want to be and finally put the business and the career last. Now that may sound counterintuitive, but every time we have made this shift with the over 100 clients that I've had to go through this method, it always works out to where they find themselves healthier, happier, and actually making more money in their career and business.
Oh, Lord, you are really dropping some bombs here. And I'm going to tell you why, because, my ideal client are women in the C-suite or women who desire to be in the C-suite. And when I think over the demographics of those women, a lot of them are on marriage number 2, marriage number 3. But because we have had these long-term relationships, I have seen the way they have changed how they think about the home through those years, from the first marriage to the second marriage or the third marriage. The first marriage, some of those women thought the husband asking for time, he was trying to compete with their career, didn't want them to be great, or didn't want them to do this, or was jealous of their success or whatever. And so they were willing to let the husband go. because they thought
Mhm.
the husband was competing and didn't want them to be
Mhm.
great. But
Mhm.
by the time they got to husband number 2 or husband number 3, where there is years of success and you can see clearly because you're enjoying the success and you know
Mhm.
what it took to get there and you know what you lack now that you're there and you're there alone or there in another marriage that you want to be successful. Now you make time with your husband a priority. Now
Yeah.
you reshift your priorities. Now you know how to say no when before you didn't know how to say no. And so I see that, and even in the clients that I deal with. And so there has to be a shift in a mindset in order to prioritize home over career throughout our
Mhm.
evolvement, evolution, because we view it differently when we're younger.
Yes.
We view it much differently. And so when you were speaking that, I'm like, oh Lord, I know what she say is true, because I can think about the number of women in my circle who are on husband number 2 and husband number 3, and who think differently with this current husband than they did with their former husband. So definitely,
Yeah.
definitely helping those women to rearrange their priorities and be okay with it, and
Yes.
understand why it's okay to rearrange those priorities. So have you gotten some pushback from those women? Because I do know that women who are super successful, we push back sometimes. So what type of pushback have you gotten from those women?
Oh, yes, I get pushback all the time. But one of the things that keep us working well together is that these women know I've been where they are. I have been that woman. And my husband, to tell you, I've always made more money than him. We met in the car business. And so to be on this side of it, success has never been the issue. It's always been how you operate as a woman. So when I get pushback, I have to remind them and go back to the beginning of our first conversations and say, why are you here? What do you want? What is not working well for you? Because I'm not the enemy, right? I'm just the
Mhm.
person that's engaging with them that they can be honest with. So one of the things about that speakers, consultants, and service providers in general, because that's typically who I help, is service providers. We cannot get offended by the attitude of our client. When you're going through a transition, when you're going through something like saying, I'm going to reprioritize how I operate as a woman, and you've operated that way for the last 15 or 20 years, we have to be the authority figure and the leader in that space with our clients and say, hold on, sis, let's breathe. Take that deep breath with them and remind them why they're here. The problem with a lot of times is that we just get offended too easily. And that's why I love working with grown women, because I've been grown since I was 4 years old, making a pot of coffee for my grandparents and my great uncles. So I've always fit in well with really grown women. And that's why I find the most success with women between the ages of 35 and 50, because the priorities and what's important to them is different. And so
I
that's
love that.
bother me.
I love that. I love that. And it's funny that you use the term grown women, because I think about how we even interact with each other. In my group of women that I frequent with a lot, somebody may rub us a particular way, and one will call one and say, hey, you didn't call me yesterday. What, you upset with me based on what I said? But we still love one another, because truth and reality is what we transfer from one another, because we want
Yeah,
one another to be great, and we
that's
want one
right.
another to be the best that they can be. So I want to kind of pivot a little bit. Here in the Sister Leaders community, we think it is important for women to have professional equity. And it is a term that I put together that has 3 legs to it. It is your reputation, your relationships, and your area expertise. And
Mhm.
as long as the public knows those 3 things, it can help you sustain yourself in a volatile industry, a volatile workplace, because people need to know what problem you can help address. People need to know your area expertise. And so I want to ask you, in terms of your professional equity, I know you said finance, what is your area of expertise? How do you leverage relationships in your business? And then also, how valuable is reputation, and how do you articulate that with your clients? How valuable is a professional reputation when you are an expert in the community?
Oh, wow. That's heavy. And I'm gonna try to make sure I get all 3 points. And if I don't, please just check me, sis. I'm gonna start with professional reputation because this is where I had to mature. I'm just gonna be transparent and talk about me. I had to mature in that area because I had to learn that someone directly competing with you, because we'll all experience it as a business owner, as a career climber. Once you begin to operate fully in the realm of success and growth, you're going to have some enemies. And I don't mean enemies where you're at war with another sister. I mean that the enemy is going to try to leverage people who are not mature, or even your immaturity, so that as you build, you're going to want to stop. He's going to have somebody copy your content. He's going to have somebody to say something negative about you. He's going to have someone that just does not like your voice or the sound of your voice. And what I've learned is that you are in control of your reputation, not what people have to say. Because when you look at the facts, this is something I talk about in, I think, my second book, Counsel Your Clients. Look at the facts. The facts say that I've done X, Y, and Z. And if your reputation can be ruined by a mistake, you either, one, have not been transparent enough as a human, two, you have not made the right connections, or three, you have not gotten comfortable with being imperfect. Because I realized that my reputation was all about my stick-to-itiveness. My reputation was about the fact that I bring results. And even as a person who's skilled in money management and sales, that's not who I am. Who I am is a woman of integrity. Who I am is a woman with a gift from God and a prophetic insight. And you can come to me with X, Y, and Z and say, Fee, okay, I've been helping people do this for all my life, and I don't even know where to start to launch it as an offer. And I'm going to sit there with my whiteboard, and God is going to release it. That is just where I'm skilled and gifted. And so understanding, and I want to shift into what you said about knowing your expertise. I think it can be tough for us when we don't realize that our expertise will always be in alignment with our gift. Our expertise and our gift are always going to work together, because the gift makes room for you. Your expertise is just what you, not just what you know, but also your experiences. What I've learned about executive women and entrepreneurial women that they often have in common, and it's probably because of my industry and I work with women with post degrees. Majority of the women I work with in entrepreneurship have been in the corporate space. But we don't realize that our expertise isn't just our degree or our book knowledge, it's also our experiences as women. And I primarily work with Black women. So our experiences are often different than our counterparts. And there was one other thing you mentioned. You said expertise, you mentioned professional reputation. There was one more I may be missing.
Relationships.
Oh my goodness, relationships. You know, there's actually the ultimate version of working with me is where we really talk about the rich method for living. And in the rich method for living, it's a four-part framework. We address how you operate, how you schedule your time. This is where we really dig into the energy piece of time, money, and energy. And the R in the rich method for living is for relationships. Now, what I've learned about relationships is that there is also a hierarchy of relationships. First and foremost, it's your relationship with God. If you can't have a good relationship with your creator and the person who designed you, you're going to struggle in some form or fashion. And then it's our relationship with ourselves. Once we manage that relationship with ourselves, then we can start to see people for who they are and not who they are to us. And that's a lot of times where we mismanage relationships, because after that are assigned relationships and selective relationships. I believe that my marriage is an assigned relationship. My relationship with my children and the clients that I attract, those are assignments. Those are assigned relationships. And we often don't know how to tell the difference between an assigned relationship and a selected relationship. And when that happens, we don't network properly. We can sometimes be opportunists and turn a friendship into a networking opportunity. And that's not what it was designed to be. Sometimes that person is just designed to be your friend. They're not designed to talk bestie with you. They're not designed to talk about your new idea. Sometimes they're just a friend. And when we select relationships, we have to make sure that we put them in the proper places, because those relationships will keep you grounded when you've had a bad month, week, or year in business. Those relationships will keep you grounded when you're fired for no reason, and you know it was no reason, or the people didn't like you or whatever. And I find that our relationships are what sustain us. And And that's why it's the most important piece of the Rich Method for Living, because our relationships allow us to see who we are and allow us to see what we attract. And if you're only attracting negative relationships, or you can't keep long-term relationships, then we have to go back up a step and go to that relationship with self and ask ourselves how we're showing up for us and what we're teaching people regarding how to treat us. And so I can talk relationships all day.
I love that. That is quite powerful. And that is an awesome answer to professional equity and relationships, reputation, and expertise. I want to kind of pivot a little bit and talk about corporate chaos. I have a book that I wrote called Corporate Chaos, and I define chaos as any distraction that is powerful enough to detract you from reaching your goals, whether it's your career goals, whether it's your business goals. And so, can you give us an example or how you navigated through a situation in corporate chaos, um, and how you made a positive aspect on the other side? So it was a situation, and then here's where how I pivoted and made it on the other side.
I cannot believe you asked me this, because I was just talking about this situation this morning on LinkedIn, and it's not something that I talk about very often, this exact situation. So I can't believe you asked me this. I was in corporate. I was in corporate sales. And as we all know, sales is a white, middle-aged, male-dominated industry, right? According to statistics and everything we know about sales. And 2 weeks after I got to my training, which we had to fly down to Florida and all these things. And as soon as I got down to training, I started feeling funny. And I was like, gosh, I don't know what's going on. At the time, I was, the way the position was set up is I was traveling twice a week. So I was only home Sunday evenings and Monday mornings, and I was back on the road. Well, I kept feeling weird for another week and another week. And I realized, oh my goodness, I think I'm pregnant. And so I said, oh my gosh, how am I pregnant when I just started this amazing career? This was my dream career. And so things started working out. And, I talked to my supervisor, and she's like, you're fine, we'll make it work. And I start to get big and pregnant. And this particular assignment, I was assigned, you always work with a partner. You didn't know who it was until you got there. And so the partner that I was working with at the time, we'll just call him Bob. I had heard a lot of negative things about Bob, but I try to meet people as I meet them and just put things like that in the back of my mind. I had never met Bob before, had never worked with Bob, and things were not going well on this assignment. I was having good success with the team that I was training, with the finance manager I was training, and all of that. But we came back from lunch, and for some reason, Bob felt it was necessary to tell me. He said, you better hope you get promoted, because you don't have any other options I have other options beside this job, and you don't. And I sat back for a minute to process what he said, because I couldn't figure out where this was coming from. And this gentleman continued, and I use the word gentleman loosely, he continued to try to sabotage me during this assignment. He continued to say things that I didn't actually say, continue to sow negative discord. And I was so angry. Mind you, I'm pregnant. So my emotions are already all over the place. I'm only one of two Black women that work for this entire company, and out of the hundreds of specialists they had, only one Black woman had ever been promoted to district manager. And it was about 2 months before I had my daughter. And I was so angry, and I called my supervisor and I said, I need you to help me walk through this situation, because this is really pissing me off. And I don't want to say something that I'm going to regret. And I realized over time, as time passed and that situation was handled, I realized that the only reason I was so angry is because part of me believed him. Part of me believed him that if that didn't work out for me, I had no other options. I was still new in business. I still didn't have very many clients. I still hadn't got my voice in the reach that I wanted out there. And part of me believed the negative thing that he said about me. And although that assignment started out very chaotic, after talking to my supervisor, I said, you know what? I'm either going to win him over, or we just not going to like each other. And so that's what I realized in that chaotic moment. But the first thing was you have to decide what it's going to be. Because I couldn't control him and his thoughts about me. That man didn't know me. And so whatever thoughts that he had about me were likely thoughts he had about himself. And he just didn't have the sense to keep his thoughts to himself. And so in that moment, I decided I'm not going to allow somebody I don't know to tell me who I am or where I'm going. I'm not going to be up here calling my supervisor because somebody said XYZ. I'm just going to let it ride. Because I used to be team pop-off. Young girl, young teens, early 20s. I was team pop-off, baby, because let's get it.
Me too.
You know? And I said, hold on, Fee. You got to relax. You got to relax. And so although he tried to ruin the assignment, I decided that I was going to move as if he wasn't there. I didn't need him to do my work. I didn't need him when it came to writing my reports. I didn't need him for anything. And so I chose to move my energy over to the people who needed me, to those finance managers and those sales managers and those salespeople who needed me. And I shined. When I tell you I shine brighter than Rihanna's diamond, baby, I was shining. And that same assignment, I got major accolades from. And so that is what I learned. And that's how I handled that one. Because baby, 20-year-old Fee would have done a little different.
Oh, I know. Because 20-year-old Karen, woo, Lord, used to leave dead bodies in the road and didn't even care about it. If it was a fact and it was true, hey, yeah. I love that example. So I was thinking that the example that you used, two things came to mind because I am 20-year-old Karen was an emotional person first and a rational person second. So now I'm 50 something, closer to 60. And now I'm rational and emotional is behind rational. And so when you were talking, my rational side kicked in and said, could it have been that one, he believed that because he hadn't seen it, because no Black woman had ever made it beyond that? And could you have believed that at that moment for the same reason? Because we need to see people in certain positions to really and truly believe that we can attain it. It is difficult being that going through that path when you're the first, because you don't have anything to co-sign that what you're doing is going to end up being successful. And so sometimes we do believe the juice because we don't have any visual that says that you're going to win the game at the end. And so he had never seen a Black woman beyond that position, and you were very aware there was only two of you in that position, but none had made it beyond that position. And so it was just something that he hadn't seen and you hadn't heard of in that particular position. And so it made sense for both of you to at least think about that. Now, like you said, he didn't have sense enough to keep his thoughts in his head, but it also, he needed to say that because that further motivated you, because you knew exactly where he stood, and how he felt and what he was thinking about. But from the rational side of me said, well, it's hard being the only and the first.
Yeah.
And the people, there will be so many more naysayers along the way if it has never been done. The most ostracized position in corporate is the position that you are vying for that no one who looked like you or had your background has ever obtained.
Absolutely.
There will, even the people who don't have the guts to say you'll never make it, they're not believing you can make it because they haven't seen it done before. And that's merely based on they haven't seen it done before. But once you hit it, baby, you hit it, and then you go back and share the blueprint with everybody else who is willing to do the work, that opens the door and opens the path for others to have a successful trek towards that same goal.
Yes.
I love
and I got promoted before him.
I like that even better. Oh, this has been wonderful. So tell the Sister Leaders community, how they can stay connected with you on social media. Where do you hang out on social media? We're probably all on all of them, but we all have one or two that we hang out the most. If you have anything that is coming up, you mentioned a couple of books. I want you to drop what the titles of those, because people will look them up and buy them. So go ahead and tell us how they can stay connected.
Yeah, so I hang out on LinkedIn. That is where I've been really kicking it the past few months, and that is my main platform for this upcoming season. And I will be there daily, just sharing knowledge about the rich method for living and how to take control of time, money, and energy. And I actually have a virtual event coming up, a 4-day event virtually called RBW Live. And one of the things, RBW stands for Rich Black Woman. And the reason I ended up with that is because I looked at all of these women, these wealth-focused women that I was working with over the past 7 years. And one of the things, and I primarily attract Black women, and that's okay with me. And one of the things I realized is that we're rich already. All of that chasing the bag, that's wonderful. We do need some money. We need plenty of money to accomplish what God has given us to accomplish, okay? But we rich already. And so I put together RBW Live. We went on tour. I mean, it's been a great success. And so I'm bringing it out virtually so that we can talk about redefining success and showing these women how to take control of their time, money, and energy. And that can be found at FeliciaKelly.com/RBW 2024. I'm the Felicia Kelly everywhere online, TikTok, Instagram, everywhere. But the RBW Live virtual experience is what I'm most excited about, because we'll be covering money, mastery, sales, and rich living. And so I've evolved quite a bit over the years past the title of financial coach. I will never take anything away from that journey. It has really blessed me. But that's what we're going to be doing over those 4 days. And so this is really for seasoned service providers. And I find that sometimes seasoned service providers are still in corporate because they haven't felt led to leave yet, or they don't have the courage to leave their high paying job. And I left a 200K a year salary. I understand, right? But it's really about restructuring your offers and repositioning yourself in a way to make the money that you're called to make without sacrificing your marriage, your family, or yourself. And so that's really our focus for the first part of 2024.
I love that. So give me those elements again: money, mastery, and what was the third?
Money, mastery, sales, and rich living.
Yes, rich living. And
Yes,
that's
rich
the
living.
rich RBW, the rich Black woman. So
Yes, yes.
make sure you connect with the Felicia Kelly. And we are so honored that you spent a few minutes with us here talking on the Sister Leaders podcast. I'm sure quite a few individuals in the Sister Leaders community will be looking you up. Ironically, the Sister Leaders community is a community of men and women who are committed to increasing the number of women in senior leadership. And so we know that since men are still predominantly mostly senior leaders in the C-suite, even in predominantly women industries, that sometimes we need men to hire our companies, partner with us on presentations just to showcase our talent, so that we can show that we are able to do the job that we know that we can do. And so, although you don't see a whole lot of men in the Sister Leaders community, they're there, and they're usually front and center during the conference. But it is a partnership, and we just want women to win. And so I am excited. We will have another great sister leader on next Monday. And so make sure you stay tuned for the next episode of Sister Leaders, the podcast. I'm Dr. Karen Hills Pruden, and I am signing out on today. Bye.